once again. Shane O'Farnan, our stalwart associate producer, law school graduate, and head constitutional Supreme Court, the kings and queens of America, reporter for the Talk Radio News Service, went into the lion's den today.
Well, if they're the kings and queens, I guess I'm the jester. But
Well,
or the reporter upon.
Yeah, or the court reporter. It's yeah.
So DOMA today.
So yes, yesterday was California Prop 8, and I think there's a kind of a broad consensus. You shared it with us first here, but it seems to have echoed through the media chamber over the last 24 hours that in all probability they're going to say to California, if Jerry Brown doesn't want to defend this thing,
right?
If the governor doesn't want to defend it, then
we're going to let it be.
Yeah,
but it's only going to be for California alone, and other states you can do what you'd like to do in the future, and we'll deal with this later.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a very reasonable prediction. But what's really interesting here is there's almost an analogy, is there not, in as much as the Defense of Marriage Act, just like Jerry Brown didn't want to defend Proposition 8 before the Supreme Court, and the Attorney General for the state of California didn't want to defend Prop 8 before the Supreme Court. President Obama doesn't want to defend DOMA before the Supreme Court, and neither does Attorney General Eric Holder.
Right.
And so there being nobody to defend it, John Boehner went out and said, me and a bunch of right-wing Republicans in the House of Representatives are going to take some taxpayer dollars and hire some private lawyers, and we're going to create this organization called BLAG. And BLAG is going to argue this thing before the Supreme Court, and we're going to argue that we are going to be harmed if gay people can get married. Oh, my God. Right? Do I have that right?
You have that right. And BLAG itself is not, the ability of the House to form these committees is not in a statute anywhere. They put it in their House rules. So,
really?
Yeah. So there's no statutory authority for this. And this was questioned before the court. Sotomayor was like, well, under the Constitution, you have rulemaking authority, but that's to run the House. That's inside the House of Representatives. You can't use your rulemaking authority to work on things outside of the House.
Like the Supreme Court.
Right. So
why'd you cross the street, boy?
But they came back and said, well, states have done this. The state legislatures in other cases have done this. And on top of it, I didn't know about this until the argument today. House Resolution 5 passed the House, which authorized BLAG by the whole House of Representatives by majority vote to represent them before the Supreme Court in this case.
But did it have funding associated with it?
I haven't read the text of it.
Yeah.
But I have heard stories that it's been reported that it is House money that is going to pay for these attorneys.
Yeah. Please forgive my bad imitation of a Southern sheriff from the 60s, by the way, with that boy in there. It's every now and then those old Mel Gibson or Mel Brooks movies pop into mind. Anyway, the bottom line for what happened today, there's a standing issue just like there was yesterday, and then there is the merits of the case. So on the standing
was they actually set aside 50 minutes for standing, and because all the parties, there was no disagreement, but they all agreed there was jurisdiction, so they had to appoint somebody even to come in and argue against jurisdiction, of all things. So none of the parties argues against jurisdiction. The United States government, the President and the Attorney General said there is jurisdiction. BLAG said there was jurisdiction. Windsor said there was jurisdiction. The court said, I'm not so sure there's jurisdiction. So they had someone else come in and argue it. And that was 50 minutes. And ahead of time when I was reading about this, a lot of the punditry didn't really think that standing was going to be a big issue. But the Supreme Court obviously thinks it is. Because they brought it up. They wanted to argue far more than yesterday about it.
Well, and also this gives them another escape hatch.
It does. Although I don't think they're going to... It just seems illogical. Not that the Supreme Court's always logical, but they had hundreds of DOMA cases to choose from. If they wanted to hear DOMA and they really wanted to rule on DOMA, why would they pick this one instead of the other 99 or more cases?
Maybe because this one had such glaring jurisdictional...
but if they do kick it on the basis of standing, they really haven't decided any merits. All it will do is say DOMA will stay on the books. The Second Circuit's opinion would be that it's unconstitutional, but the other circuits can go their own way.
Right.
So it doesn't solve or answer any questions.
No, but that's my point. Is
they don't want
that
to? Is what you're saying?
For example, if they're trying to avoid, and I think that John Roberts did this with Obamacare, they're trying to avoid a Roe v. Wade, a Brown v. Board,
right.
A Citizens United, a Bush v. Gore.
Wish they had thought of that sooner.
Yeah, right. They're trying to avoid a significant decision, a definitional decision.
Right.
And they know that if they can just kick this can down the road for a couple of years, DOMA's going to go away. There's no way this thing is going to last, even a decade.
Well, unlike kicking it down the road yesterday, more and more states, yes, will enact same-sex marriage, but DOMA won't go away unless Congress repeals it.
Well, that's my point. Congress is going to have to repeal it. They're going, they're just the pressure is going to get so great. I mean, you've got when you get a half a dozen or a dozen states, just like we have 2 states now that have legalized marijuana,
True.
And you get 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 states that have decriminalized pot.
Right.
The federal government's going to have to reschedule pot. And I think the same thing with gay marriage here. If you get enough states saying we recognize gay marriage, the IRS is going to have to say we got to do something, and the Republican Party is going to have to say we got to do something. You got Reince Priebus running around going, we're going to rebrand the party. Well, here's where you can start.
Well, maybe this will be a good thing after all. But then what concerns me is we actually do turn into a Roe v. Wade situation in that each state gets to decide. So now they have 50 different battlegrounds on which to fight same-sex marriage with the terrible arguments they put forward and fundraise on it.
But they're starting to lose badly.
I understand, but they might still have those bulwark states like Alabama and Mississippi for decades and decades to come.
Yeah, this is sort of the argument that ultimately led to Loving versus Virginia.
Sure.
But again, even that would have been. I think eventually even Virginia would have come around. Although well, anyway, you and I are debating this as if we were on the Supreme Court. We're not. On the merits.
On the merits, the BLAG came forward defending DOMA, saying the reason for this case, they didn't really get into the social issues.
Right.
It was interesting. Although it was in the papers, it wasn't in the argument today. The Supreme Court wasn't going to say it, wasn't going to consider it even, because the federal government, they outright said, doesn't have any of those interests. That's the state's interest. So the argument was uniformity, that the federal government needs uniformity across the states, no matter what the states do, in terms of enforcing their federal law. And Justice Alito made a compelling hypothetical towards this, which will tell the story a little better. What if you have 3 couples, military couples, same sex couples, and they are married, one in a state that recognizes marriage, one that recognizes civil unions, and one that doesn't recognize marriage. All right. And one of those military people gets injured. You're going to have 3 different outcomes as to 2 different outcomes. One of them in the same-sex state would be able to visit that person in the hospital. The other 2 wouldn't. So they would be treated actually unequally because the federal law would look to states' definitions of marriage rather than the
and
across the board.
And thus the question, should there be a federal definition of marriage?
Right, but many of them just said no, there should not be. That the federal government it's not their job.
Except
to
that for
define
tax
marriage.
purposes, we tax married people differently, so there has to be some sort of federal definition, or at least some federal acknowledgement of a state's definition.
Well, they could do something that doesn't use the word marriage. In fact, Justice Alito suggested this many times. Why don't we not call it marriage? We'll just redefine it altogether.
Yeah.
So we take marriage
Good luck
out
with
of
that.
There's 11,000, I think, was the number mentioned. Different.
If you include all the state laws, it's 1,100 in the federal code. Yeah,
federal code. Different laws they'd have to change. So it's not like you can just find replace all.
Right.
It would take a lot of work by Congress, and they're not.
And Congress is not inclined to do that any more rapidly than they're going to overturn DOMA.
No, they're not even in town.
So it looks like on the merits, DOMA is toast, given what we said.
I think
probably 5-6, 5-4. Probably
maybe
Kennedy
6-4.
Joining the liberals.
I think Roberts made.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Very, very, especially given that Roberts' gay cousin was in the gallery yesterday, I believe today. Shane O'Farnon, we'll be back with more.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And BLAG. Did you ever hear this? I mean, why is this not the big media story? That we have to have the BLAG? Really? BLAG?